Welcome everyone. Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm just seeing some faces flash up on my screen as we're getting underway. You're all very welcome. So my name is Alan, and I'm part of the Chelmsford Diocese Communications team. Well, at least one day a week. I'm actually a curate based in East London on the sort of Romford, Essex, London border. And I've had the privilege for working with the mighty communications team for the last 6 months or so, as we've been contemplating all things online and digital and sharing the good news and all things God, I guess, when it comes to the situation we find ourselves in. And so our communications team, you'll see, I don't know where he might be on your screen, on mine is up there somewhere. It's Tom Geldard is the head of the diocesan communications team, and basically anything that goes right or goes wrong, we blame Tom. But Tom's our man. Tom's the kind of guru of the evening. And Tom's around to he's going to be sort of in the background, keeping an eye on questions and things like that go in the chat. And so any questions you've got, if you just flag it up, and Tom will jump into action. Also to say, we've got a picture of him at the moment, looking very trendy, but James Cottis is also part of the team. James runs a company called Digital Spirit, and they do loads of work for the diocese, building websites and basically essentially keeping us running and keeping us moving forwards when it comes to our communications. So James is also around to help and look after us tonight as well. So again, if you've got any questions, pop it in the chat, or ask Tom, ask James as well along the way. And I'm going to introduce, Ali is our guest speaker tonight, Ali Johnson, and I'm going to get him to introduce himself in a minute. He's informed me he's not in fact in a sauna. I thought he was. I think he was being proper trendy, but he's got his own little patch at the end of his garden. So yeah, Ali will jump in a minute. So just a few housekeeping things, really. The sessions are recorded, so because they're after the session's finished in the next couple of days, it will go up on the diocesan website and the YouTube channel. So they are recorded. So on that note, if you prefer not to be seen, or most of the time it will be on speaker view. So in theory, all it should pick up is those who are actually talking. But if you want to just make sure that you're not on screen, you can either let Tom or let James know, and we can edit you out of the video if you do, pop up later on. Or if you prefer, just, turn your screen off, and it's another way to do it. In terms of the structure of tonight, so Ali's going to speak to us in a little while, and he's going to be talking to us about how we can share the good news of the gospel and of our faith and what God's put in our hearts in a digital world and online, etc. And I'm really excited about what Ali's going to bring, actually. So Ali's going to sort of, bring us some rich content, I'm sure. And then there's going to be an opportunity for some questions. We're going to hear Ali for about 20-25 minutes or so, and then we're going to have a short time to go into breakout rooms and chew over what we've heard, and then come back and we'll have a bit of a Q&A session. When it comes to that time, if you've got questions, and even throughout, pop them in the chat. As I say, myself, James and Tom will be keeping an eye on that, and we'll endeavour to get through all the questions. Or if you want to, we'll keep ourselves on mute for obvious reasons, in case you've got some old dodgy ringtone going off in the background or whatever it may be. But we'll keep ourselves on mute. But if you do want to ask a question through that time, just pop your hand up or an emoji or wave. Just make some sort of appropriate gesture to the screen, and we will we'll be able to unmute you, and you can ask your question that way. Finally, I think I should have checked this with Tom. I'm not sure. In terms of closed captions, is that available, Tom?
Yeah, it should be. We might need to. In fact, James, are you able to turn that back on? I think we turned it off because we were.
Well, hopefully at some point you'll find there should. I mean, I think they'll be there, but there will be a button in your kind of little station at the bottom of your Zoom, so where there will be an option to turn on or turn off caption. So if you do need that, or you can
turn it on now.
You can,
yeah, we're turning it on. I don't know. It usually turns itself on automatically, but didn't seem to have done so this evening. So we'll turn it on.
This is why Tom and James are here. This is why they just jump into action. It's like Batman and Robin of the digital world. So, but yeah, there will be some a way for you to pop on some captions if Eddie's talking too quick or getting too technical, because I'll probably pop them on myself. So there you go. I think that's everything that you need to know. So with further ado, I'll hand over to Ali.
Thank you so much, Alan. It's great to be with you tonight. My name's Ali. As Alan said, I'm up in the north, Midlands, Stoke-on-Trent. I work out of Cliff College, which is a Bible college, Methodist training college in Derbyshire. So I'm there half-time, and then I'm a Methodist member of staff, but don't tell anyone. I'm a Methodist member of staff part-time on what they call the Evangelism growth team, thinking about digital kind of mission and how to do digital evangelism. So that's kind of my story and journey. I'm going to talk tonight, just share out a little bit what we're going. I want to run through some statistics really early and tick them off the list, and just talk a little bit about the state of play, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about mission and what is working as far as church trends through COVID are concerned, and look at some of the reports that you'll all know about, pull some questions out for us about mission in the kind of post-COVID environment / COVID environment, and then just some simple communication theory and talk about Disney, because that's always good. And then I'm going to give you 3 really good examples of mission, all in the space of 20 minutes. Is that okay with everyone? Questions, pop them in a chat. The boys will stop me, or you can. If it's a question about clarification, please don't wait, because it might be that I've got to speak fast to get through all this great content. So please feel free to stop me. If it's a kind of opinion question, then pop it in the chat and we'll do those at the end. Is that okay? Tip top. All right, we'll dive in. I want to dive in with, you should see me all here. Okay, I want to dive in with 2 bits of just 2 books, like old school, hardback, paperback books, okay? That I think are really useful as far as digital is concerned. You might have had these recommended to you before. And if you have, I kind of echo that recommendation. The first one is So Everyone Can Hear, which is by Mark Crosby, who's head of the director of comms for the Vineyard Church Movement. Mark is just a genuinely lovely guy. I'm not the most avid reader, but this book is full of pictures and graphs and not many words, which is tip top for me. So I would advise you to get this book. I've seen it used kind of in church leadership teams. Everyone's bought the book and read it together. It goes through some really basic stuff, but also goes a little bit more in depth. So that's another good one. Another one is Nona Jones, who's head of religion or something like that. I can't remember her actual job title of Facebook. I'm sure a book last year called From Social Media to Social Ministry. And is really good if you're asking questions around digital discipleship. So how to make things like Facebook not just work and kind of as a platform, but also work for your church to kind of build discipleship. So highly recommend both of those as a kind of fallback. So let's talk a little bit about where we're at. I take all my statistics from one report. It's called the We Are Global report, and it's written by Hootsuite, which is a platform that you can do scheduling on. They release reports every quarter. Okay, so this report came out last week, and I received it on Friday. So this is up-to-date information, as in hot off the press information. It's a 266-page report, so don't bother reading it. I'll give you the highlights, and then feel free to take that with you. So just going to move myself a little bit further out of the way, so you might not see much of me. This is digital trends around the world. Okay, we're looking at digital trends from all around the world. So total population as of today is at 7.83 billion, with an urbanization of 56.4%. Okay, unique mobile phone users is 5.22 billion, and that's compared to populations at 66%. Okay, internet users is at 4.66 billion compared to population that is 59.5%, and active social media usage 4.2 billion, and that's at population 53.6% of population. Okay, they're the headline statistics of where we're at in January 2021. We've just come out of that month. Okay, this is growth. Okay, this is growth from January 20 to January 2021. So this is the best reading we've got of the pandemic. Okay, this is the best statistics I can give you about digital use in the pandemic. So the key stat to remember is population went up by 1%. Okay, natural population growth was 1% in the year we're talking about. Okay, unique mobile phone users went up at 1.8%. So that's an increase of 93 million. Okay, internet use, astonishingly up 7.3%. Okay, which is mental, crazy. And that went up 316 million. And the amazing number, the really interesting number is basically through COVID, okay, social media use went up by 13.2%. Okay, worldwide social media usage went up by 13.2%, which is an increase of 490 million. Okay, that is worldwide, and that's an increase in COVID. Okay, just kind of run you through kind of usage, and then I'm going to take you into a little bit more detail on these. But okay, so total number we know was at 4.6. We've told that number before, and then the number increase we know was at 7.3. The interesting number here, okay, is average time spent. Okay, we're going to dig into this just a little bit. Average time spent was at 6 hours and 54 minutes. Okay, worldwide, average use of the internet was 6 hours and 54 minutes. Okay, and a percentage of accessors using the internet via mobile devices escalated rapidly, okay, to 92.6%. Okay, most people are now mobile first. Mobile is their first screen. Okay, the laptop is their second screen. It's really, really important to remember that when we're thinking about mission. Okay, most people are accessing digital stuff on their phones. Okay, if you think of that as number one and everything else as number two. Okay, and this is daily time spent. Okay, this is from age 16 to 64-year-olds. Okay, so we know they spent 6 hours and 54 minutes. I've told you that before. Okay, time spent was 3 hours and 24 minutes. I was watching TV, okay, broadcast or streaming content, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, that was that figure. Okay, social media was 2 hours and 25 minutes. Okay, time spent online reading press, okay, and physical and print was 2 hours and 2 minutes. Okay, time spent listening to streaming music was 1 hour and 31. Okay, broadcast radio was an hour. Podcast was 54 minutes. And gaming, remember this is average use. Okay, gaming was 1 hour and 12 minutes. Just to say, I had a conversation with one of my friends who's 21 years old today. They played the PlayStation last year, okay, for, I just need to get this right to make sure this was 83 full days over the course of a year, okay? 83 full days over the course of the last year. So that's the year 20. Their average whole time on the PlayStation was 8 days. So we are talking about some incredible numbers. I'm going to bring myself back so you can all see my beautiful face. Here's what I want to just pull 5 points out. I'm not going to explain a lot about them because I've only got 12 minutes to go, but 5 points that I think are really interesting for mission. The first is growth, okay? The number of people online is incredible, and the amount increase we see is incredible. The second is e-commerce is now an online first activity. That will never go back, okay? E-commerce is now an online first activity. Click and collect is here to stay, okay? It is not going anywhere. The reason you walk around your supermarkets and see lovely people in yellow fluorescent jackets saying home shopping that are getting in your way is because that is here to stay now. That is how people do. The other thing, really interesting thing is internet speeds okay, went up worldwide by an average, I think off the top of my head, it was like 43% went up by, okay? And the reason for that is 5G. Okay, 5G is coming, and 5G will now give us all access to better internet speeds on our phones than we have in our houses. Okay, that is here to stay and will only get bigger over the course of the next sort of 3 to 5 years. Demographic shifts, okay? We can say with certainty old people got online during the pandemic. Okay, we've experienced it as church leaders. Okay, general brushstrokes, the demographic of social media has changed rapidly. Okay, the platforms are going to adapt to you guys being online. Okay, that they're going to change and transform. Facebook will do that piece of work because it's where the money is. And then the last thing is really important to say is the numbers also leave a lot of the world behind. Okay, it's really important to state that somewhere, and this is the right place to state that. Okay, the developing world is not going to be developing in social media at the same rate as us. Okay, and the same is true in the UK. Is we know and we recognise there is going to be a group of people who can't access the internet for whatever reasons. Okay, it's important we state that. It's not my job to answer that question tonight, but it's my job to state it. Okay, next thing, I've got 11 minutes to go. Okay, 4 reports that came out during the pandemic that are worth researching. The first one is a report by Tear Fund. Okay, that was all centered around prayer. Okay, the second was a Changing Church report by Evangelical Alliance, which came out nearly 12 months ago. The third is an American piece of research. Okay, apologies. It's called The State of the Church, and it's a Barna piece of research, but it's really worth looking at. Okay, online. And then the final thing is a piece of work that my church neighbour and about 4 different organisations did, called The State of the Christian Organisations in the UK. Okay, I've read them all, and I'm going to tell you all of them in 7 points. Is that okay? Okay, 7 things that they said. Apologies, this is definitely not how to do a presentation, but it's the only option I've got. Okay, 7 things I want to say. The first is broad brushstrokes. There was more interest in church faith and prayer. Okay, there was a rise in interest in all of those things. Okay, second thing is about 60% of Christian organisations saw a reduce in funding and grants. Okay, hear me say that's not everyone. Okay, but it seems to be that any church that had a reliance on rent, okay, and lettings is struggling. Okay, nods across the board is that's our experience. Donations didn't necessarily go down, okay, in the same way, but lettings went down in a dramatic fashion. Okay, so we're going into a reduced funding and grants area. Okay, grants are not going to be as easy to access as they were before lockdown. Okay, they might be in the church, but they're not going to be in community. And there was a really big rethinking of small groups in the life of the church, but also as a mission opportunity. Okay, WhatsApp in neighborhoods, okay, were a big thing. Do you remember when we all set up our WhatsApp group in our neighborhoods? That was a thing, okay? And small groups in our churches, our bigger churches became smaller, and our smaller churches became even smaller, okay? So we connected with a few people, and it was our job to keep in touch. And coming out of the pandemic, there's going to be greater need with fewer resource. Okay, that is the reality of what we're about to go into. The needs are going to be huge. Okay, young people are breaking down with mental health. Okay, the poor are even poorer. Okay, people who are isolated are now even more isolated, and people who weren't very good at communicating are now even worse at communicating. Okay, all those things have happened. Greater need, fewer resource. The positive, okay, we saw a massive increase in digital skills. Okay, loads of people are experts in Zoom that were not experts in Zoom before. Okay, loads of people know how to do YouTube that didn't know how to do it before. Loads of people are good at doing stuff they didn't, making videos. Okay, they didn't know how to do that before. This I'm not sure about, so challenge me on this if you want. Okay, we're going probably back to lower long-term numbers. Okay, the reports seem to suggest, okay, that some people aren't coming back. Okay, I have no reading on that. You guys will have a better knowledge of that. And the last thing, this is mine. Okay, this is not in the reports. This is in Ali's own report. Okay, I saw an increase in creativity and possibility. I am having conversations that I thought I'd be having in 10 years today. And I thank the Lord for that. Like, we are having conversations about the possibility of church planting, of like bringing churches together that would never have worked together because they were desperate. Thank the Lord we're having those kind of conversations, okay? Okay, some questions that I think are really important for you to ask when we're thinking about evangelism and evangelistic opportunities. I'm going to give you the best piece of knowledge that I ever have received, and it's from Mark's book. So feel free to take it directly from his book. Okay, 4 M's: message, market, media, moment. If you're doing any form of communication, whether it be a poster, a notice board, or a whole project, if you can't answer these questions, then it's probably not going to be successful. The first is the message. Okay, what are you trying to say? Okay, literally, if you can't boil down into a sentence what you're trying to say in your communication, that's going to make it really difficult to be successful. The second is, who's the market? If you don't know who that piece of communication is for, that's never going to be a successful way to communicate in the digital age. Okay, and if you don't know what I mean by market, I mean people. I literally mean people. Okay, the best way I've seen this done is personaing. Okay, literally finding the people out you want to reach and asking them what is important to them. Okay, what is important to their families? What are their concerns? What are their jobs? Like, what do they do in their spare time? What are they bothered about? Okay, you make up, you might need to make the person's name up, and you build this idea of who they are. And the next thing is media. Once you know the person, you will know what the media is for them, what the right media for them. If you're going to reach young people, okay, Facebook is not the right platform. Okay, if you're going to reach middle-aged people, okay, Facebook might be the right platform. If you're going to reach parents, Facebook is the right platform. Okay, the media will be defined by the market and the message. And the last thing is, what's the moment? Okay, what is the right time to reach them? Okay, as in, what is the best time of day to reach them, but also how far in advance is the best time to reach them? Okay, what is the best way to reach them? That's the moment. Okay, if you're doing any, that is a gift from me to you tonight. Genuinely an absolute gift. If when you do a piece of communication or a project and you can't answer those 4 questions, or this is where I think it works really well. If the person coming to you can't answer those 4 questions, they're asking you to do some communication, say, can we just work through these 4 questions together? It takes 5 minutes. It'll be really helpful for me to do my job properly. And if you can answer these 4 questions with me, if they can't, then the challenge for them is to go think about that. And I think they're really useful. Disney. I promised you I was going to talk about Disney. Okay. And if you want a bit of light relief, there was a documentary on Disney Plus. If you haven't got it, apologies, called Imagineering. Okay. It's called The Imagineering Story. In Disney theme parks, okay, they have a group of people who are half engineers and half imagination. Okay, they're called the Imagineers. They are the best group I've ever heard of, because we need more of these in the church. Okay, Disney pulled together a group of people who are great at building rides, but were also a great group of people who are great at imagining what was possible. They have 12 principles. Okay, go and Google them. But their number 1 principle is something called plussing. Okay, plussing. Basically, here's how it works. Okay, they have an idea, they build a prototype, and then they ask one simple question: how can we make it better? Okay, my opinion, here's my opinion. My opinion was we stopped asking that question in church about 50 years ago. Okay, we did church and we never sat down and said, how can we make church better for the people that don't know Jesus? Okay, I think this is absolutely genius. Okay, I think this is absolutely genius. For any idea you have, be it church online, okay, be it an evangelism project, once you've run the project or once you've done the pilot, ask the question, how can we make it better? That's not a critical question. That's a question because we want people to we want people to meet Jesus. Okay, we want to reach people for Jesus. That's why you've all turned up tonight. That's why I do my job. Okay, because I want people to meet Jesus. It's called plussing. The other 12 are good, but that's great. The other 11 are good, but that's great. Okay, in the last 2 minutes, because I said to Alan, I'd definitely stick to time. Okay, I want to offer you 3 things. Okay, and then I'm going to make some bold statements before I finish. Okay, I want to offer you 3 ideas which you can go look at for inspiration when it comes to digital evangelism projects. Okay, the first is ones you might have heard of. Okay, The Way UK, and they are an Instagram channel. Okay, created by 2 young people. Okay, if you go on Instagram and type in The Way UK, they'll come up. They are literally young people, okay, talking about life and faith, okay? Nothing complicated. They've not got loads of resource. They're literally young people talking about faith, and it is beautiful to watch, okay? They interview people. They're building community. They ask questions about faith. They ask questions about the environment, about bullying, about Black Lives Matter. They ask all sorts of interesting content. And for my money, okay, it's exactly what we want young people to do, which is young people to talk to young people. Thanks, James. That's the Instagram channel in the chat. The next one is a podcast called Nomad. Okay, Nomad is a podcast. Basically, it started out with one guy, okay, who had 2 friends. They started asking questions of faith. Okay, they would meet together and they would. These 2 friends, he was a missioner, he worked for the Methodist Church, he was a mission guy, and he would literally churn out having this conversations about faith. Okay, he was like, why am I not turning this into a podcast? This is 2009 when podcasts weren't cool. That's my time. Okay, podcasts weren't cool. Okay, he literally started a podcast. Off the back of the podcast, he started a listener map. He said to those people coming on listening, post where you're listening, and we'll gather people around those areas together, okay? And then people started meeting, okay? And then he was like, what do I do next, okay? He started a Facebook page, okay? A Facebook group, okay, that he called the Book Club. And they would literally read a book together, okay? You had to pay to get in, you had to subscribe, pay a monthly fee because that funded the podcast because they aren't cheap to make, okay? And it literally fed what has become a beautiful community of people. Okay, it started with just literally people asking questions about faith, and one thing led to another. Okay, you know what they did? They plussed every idea. Okay, they literally did what Disney told them to do. They had an idea and they plussed it. And the last one is a bit of self-promotion. Okay, I run a website called thechristianity.org.uk. Okay, I'm a trustee for it, and literally, it's not very clever because it's one of because I can say that because I'm on the board. It's literally us putting articles out there about faith, okay, from across the broad spectrum of the church. People come on, they Google, I don't know, we're having loads of conversations about, let me think of a good one. Okay, one of the things that gets Googled all the time is, why are Christians so bothered about bread and wine? Okay, so we have an article on there about bread and wine, okay? And they can go on there and they can search about bread and wine. It's honestly a really boring bit of content for you guys, but for them, it answers the question. And then at the bottom, there's a little chat symbol, and they can go on the chat symbol and they can talk to a real follower of Jesus. And so for those people who've got mental health problems or students who are trying to figure out their latest GCSE RE question, okay, they literally go on there and they start asking questions of faith. Not complicated, not clever, simple, effective ways to evangelism. The last thing I want to say, okay, I thought I'd better end on the Bible because I'm a Bible college. I work at a Bible college, so I get told off if I didn't. Psalm 127:1, unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. I spent too long sitting with church leaders, okay, who are working, and hear me say this in the politest way, because I don't know any of you, so I can say this. I don't want you to be ineffective or inefficient. I want the work that we do, particularly in a digital sphere, to be both effective and efficient, because I want people to come to know Jesus. I think we've done a great job as a church of getting people online. I think we've got the church online. The next frontier is, how do we do mission? Like, how do we tell people about Jesus? Like, how do we reach people for Jesus online? Because I just think we've done and it's been really important, and I've been really proud of how we've done it. On a Sunday morning, my newsfeed is littered with churches doing great services. And then in the week, I see very little. My challenge to you tonight is, let's have a conversation. Let's spark some ideas about how we reach people for Jesus outside of church on a Sunday. Alan, I'm going to stop there, mate. I've got questions when you want them.
Hey, quality. I don't know about you. That was a whirlwind for me. And I was like writing down some notes, screenshotting and all sorts. So that was awesome. Thanks, Ali. That was quality. There are some questions, or well, there's a thank you. There's a question in the chat. Shall we go into some breakout rooms first? Because I want to get into the question as well. But I don't know, maybe, I don't know, Tom, do you want to go into breakout rooms first and then come back, and then we'll start with a question from Sarah? Does that sound all right?
Sounds good, Alan, yeah.
Quality. So if we
I've got some questions if you want me to give to him. Framing questions, if that's helpful. Questions that I use with every, I obviously do this for a job, so these are some of the questions that I use for people, but ignore them if your conversation goes in a different way, okay? So first question would be, what's the light bulb moment, okay? What's the thing you want to take away from this that you think, yeah, that made sense? Also, recognize I've done what I normally do in a whole day in 20 minutes, maybe let's say 23 minutes, because I ran over a little bit. What didn't make sense? Like, what would you like more context conversation about? And the third question would be, what inspired you? Like, did one of the ideas really strike a chord with you? And then maybe for the statistic, what surprised you? And then what challenged you? Pick one of those questions for you that's really helpful to have a conversation around.